everybody. Welcome to the Straight Out of BS podcast. Thank you guys for your continued support. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon members. Thank you to anybody that supported me in any way, interacting with the video, donating to the podcast. Everything really helps the algorithm and helps. Donations were never expected, so they're always appreciated. And I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
My name's Charlie Keogh. I went to Midwest Academy from 2007 to 2011. And then I went to Abundant Life Academy from 2011 to 2013.
Okay. And walk us through your childhood a little bit and what led up to you being sent away.
So I was born and raised in Iowa. I always like to think that I lived a pretty normal life. It was me and my 2 sisters. My parents got divorced when I was 7. Never really thought that it affected me until after going through some therapy and realizing that it, affected me in different ways. I became suicidal very early on. My first suicide attempt, I believe I was 7 or 8. I tried to hang myself in my mom's room while she was in the shower. So it was kind of always like a very depressed kid. Didn't have a lot of friends growing up. Got in a lot of fist fights and all that. And kind of just all around acted out while my mom was trying to figure out how to handle me, and didn't know what to do as a single mom. And at the time, business was booming for a lot of these schools, and my therapist recommended one to her, and away we went.
Okay. And did you get transported, or how did you get there?
No, so my therapist invited my mom into a therapy session one day. And all we talked about was Midwest. I don't really remember what they described it as, but they described it as a private school where I was still going to be able to talk and see her and all that. And I was going to be there for 6 months. And so I willingly let them take me there and everything. I was told that I was still going to be able to have my cell phone and access to the outside world and all that. And then showed up and was stripped of everything.
Okay. And did they show you a brochure or anything?
No.
You were in there? Okay.
Yeah, I very much went into it not knowing anything about it. All I knew is that I was told that it was a therapeutic boarding school for troubled teens where they did a lot of fun activities and helped me through school.
Okay. And let's see, when you got there, what do you first remember about when you first got there?
Pretty much everything. I remember I walked in the front door. I was freshly 13. I was just a little 110-pound kid. And I remember 4 upper levels came to come see me, and I remember they were just very large and intimidating kids that I was not expecting. I believe 2 of them were 18-year-olds. And I remember them taking me, patting me down, taking away all my stuff, and kind of breaking down all the rules for me and telling me that pretty much couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't do any of this, and that all my freedoms were gone. It was a very intimidating first impression.
Okay. Did they buddy you up with anybody? Did they show you a physical room manual at all?
Yeah, so I had a Hope Buddy for, I think it was like the first couple days that I was there. And I had to handwrite the entire, I think it was like 60-something page manual. And I had to do all of that before I could get on the computers to do school.
Okay.
So I think that took me like a week or so to do.
Okay. And did this place have seminars?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So while I was there, I went through orientation, discovery, focus, PC1, PC2, and principles.
Okay. Did you make it through principles the first time?
Yeah, I never got into a seminar and left. I never got chosen out of a seminar. It took me a while to get into a couple seminars, but I never didn't make it through.
Okay. And how was your program? Was it easy to get points? Did you try to get points but get consequence, or did you say fuck it?
So I never actually graduated. I was there for 44 months, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I was when it ended, when it closed, but to my knowledge, I am the longest standing student to ever have been there at one time. I know there's a couple that left and came back, went on extended visits and then came back, kind of thing, that were there a little bit longer. But I know that I'm at least one of the longest students that I ever went there. And I was very bullied for my first probably year and a half, 2 years there. I suffered a lot of mental abuse from the staff members and a lot of physical abuse from some of the other kids. I remember my second week in, there was a couple of the kids and the staff member that didn't like me, and so the staff member took me and the kids into another room, and they took me into a corner, and I got jumped by 3 kids while the staff member sat there and laughed. And so I stayed at level 1 for probably 2.5 to 3 years of my program. A lot of the staff members, after reading like my files and everything, I discovered that a lot of the staff members used to make it a game to see who could get me sent to OSS, to see, what trouble they could get me into that day.
Okay. I can relate. Not until recently did I remember that I was getting jumped and beat up like every day by other students. So
yeah, it's definitely something that I up until the program was released, it was definitely something that I forgot had even happened. Like, not forgot, but had pushed it down so far that didn't realize a lot of these things affected like how I live my life and all that, and caused me to have trust issues with people and affected like friendships and relationships.
okay. And what was the hardest part about being there, and how did you deal with it?
I don't know, for me, so after I'd been there for almost 2 years, my sister got sent there.
Wow.
And she had been there for a couple months before I was even told that she was there. And I wasn't supposed to know. I remember I was, for the first time, like actually doing something in my program. I was level 3, and I was getting ready to go into focus. And I walked by Mr. Ben, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, have you seen your sister yet?" And I was like, "No, I haven't seen her since I've been here." And he was like, "No, like, have you seen her recently?" And I was like, "No, what do you mean?" And he was like, "Oh, we picked her up about a month ago. She's here." And a lot of my family rep and one of the other shift leaders were very upset about it. And I just remember being torn down, because my sister's like my best friend. And after that, like, I could, go into lunch and we'd do our head count. We'd walk into the cafeteria and then I'd hear the girls walking into lunch. And I could just remember hearing my big sister give her number and not being able to go give her a hug or anything, and just,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, they told me that as long as I was doing, well in my program, that on holidays we could, have breakfast or lunch together. They'd kind of set us up a table in the middle. And so that was kind of my motivation for a while. But one of the big things that I really is I always tried to, I knew that I could take any of the abuse or anything like that that some of the staff members were giving. And it was, like my stepfather was a very verbally abusive alcoholic when I was a kid. He's sober now, and I've got a great relationship with him. But as a kid, he was very verbally abusive to me and my siblings, and I used to make sure that I had his attention, so he would take it out on me as opposed to taking it out on them. And I kind of used that at Midwest. And so I'd have a couple friends there that I knew were having a bad day or something like that. So I would act out to keep the staff's attention on me as opposed to being onto them. Just to kind of play that role, because I knew that I could take it and go.
Okay. So are you an empath?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. How was the food there?
Fucking horrible.
Okay.
I remember very specifically, whenever we had French toast, the French toast was always so bad that it literally would taste like cigarettes. I can't tell you the amount of times where I'd opened a carton of milk and it was curdled milk that had expired 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Hell no. Okay. How many people were there on average? It doesn't have to be accurate, but how many people would you say were there on the facility when you got there, and how many people were there when you left on the boys' side?
So when I got there, it was pretty much full. There was about 20 to 30 kids per family. And by the time that I left, I believe there was 1 or 2 families.
Okay, and did it get shut down, or did you graduate? What happened?
No, I got pulled. They sent me on a wilderness program retreat with my uncle. And I was gone for a week, and I completed that, and my parents decided that they were going to test the waters of me coming home. And so I went on an extended home visit for a couple months, and was kind of just thrown into the world. Like I said, I got sent to Midwest when I was freshly 13. Never stepped foot in high school, never worked a summer job, never kissed a girl, never went to a dance, didn't learn how to drive a car, didn't know how to make friends because I wasn't allowed to talk to people. And so when I went home for that 6 months, I attempted suicide 4 times. Didn't really make any friends, kind of was just alone. And then one day, me and my stepdad got into a big fight, and I broke his jaw. So I went back to Midwest for 3 more months as a holding cell because they did not want me back. And that was when I then was transferred to Abundant Life Academy.
Okay. And what was the worst thing you saw at Midwest Academy? And it can be more than one thing. And was there anything positive about your experience? And it's perfectly fine if there wasn't.
Is this something that happened to me or that I saw somebody else do?
Either or.
I remember when I first got there, there was a kid who was having a lot of health issues. I remember his name, but for privacy reasons, won't say it. But I remember he was having a ton of health issues and seizures, getting sick all the time. And he was a level 1 crap puller, as they would say. And so they never believed him. And he had a seizure one night, and they just told him that he was faking it. And I just remember looking at him as he was shaking and foaming at the mouth, being like, hey, this kid isn't okay. And them being like, no, if that's just what he does, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And And a couple months later, he went on like a medical leave and never came back. For me, I sent you pictures of that. It was my second time there. I was 16, and it was the 4th of July. And I remember it was shortly after I got sent back, and I wasn't okay. Like I said, I'd had a lot of suicide attempts. I wasn't feeling okay. There was one of the kids who I went to school with there who I knew from back home. And we've gotten closer since we've been home. But I knew his mom very well, and she was a big part of like a volunteer there a lot. Obviously didn't quite know what was going on, but she was there for the 4th of July. And I wanted to go talk to her, but they wouldn't let me go talk to her. And I was like, no, I just want a hug. Can I just get a hug from her? Like, I just want to go see her because she was like a mom to me. And I was told by the shift leader that the only way that I could, or that she didn't want to talk to me. If I wanted to talk to somebody, the only way I was going to get that is if I went to OSS. And so I said, I'm going to be honest, like the way that you are treating me, like I really want to lash out and punch somebody. I'm not going to, but that's the way that I'm feeling. I was trying to express my emotions. And because I was there for that time for violence, they then put my arms behind my back and escorted me to OSS. And I was very confused as to why I was being sent to OSS. And so I kind of fought back as we were getting there. And I was thrown to the ground as soon as we got into the OSS room, and I split my head open and I said, hey, I'm bleeding. And they told me, no, you're not, you're lying. You're just trying to make us get off of you. And I said, no, my head is split open. And they told me again, no, it's not. So I lifted my head up, and as hard as I could, I headbutted the concrete ground, causing my head to split open even more, and blood to pour out of my head. And we wrestled on the ground, and they made me rub my face in my own blood. And then they left me. And about an hour and a half later, the nurse came in and said I needed stitches, but they weren't going to take me to the hospital. And so I just kind of sat there in a puddle of my own blood for asking for a hug from somebody.
Okay. Do you remember them giving you stitches? Did you have any complications from that?
No, they didn't let me go to the hospital.
Okay. Did they give you stitches without complication?
No, they didn't. They didn't do anything for it. They cleaned it up, and gave me a Band-Aid.
Wow. Okay.
And to this day, I've got a giant scar on my forehead.
Okay. And what led up to you being sent to Abundant Life Academy?
It was because Midwest didn't want me there. They told me that they would hold me there, but they did not want me to continue to be a student there. So my family was on the search for another school.
Okay. Did they give you a reason?
Nope.
Okay. And were you on prescription medications before you went there?
Yes.
Okay. Did they take you off prescription medications, load you up with more or?
They loaded me up with more. While I was there, Vyvanse became a thing, and I was prescribed Vyvanse, and didn't think anything of it because I've always been on medication. I don't take it anymore, but was always told, here, take this, it'll help you. And when I came home for that little bit before I got sent back, I went and saw a different medication doctor. And he told me the extent, so I was prescribed 140 milligrams of Vyvanse a day.
Wow.
And he told me that he wouldn't prescribe that to a 400-pound male. Like grown adult, he would not give that much to. And that the amount of what they were making me, that I was taking, was causing more harm to me than it was good.
Have you had health complications because of that?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And I've got insomnia, but I kind of just chalk that up to I don't like sleeping because of when I sleep, I think of that place.
Okay. Understandable. And so how did you get to the second place?
It was in Utah. We flew there. That one I was showed more brochures of, and I was kind of more into the picking out process of it. And I don't know. I mean, it was a day and night difference. You know, they were not run by W.W.A.S.P. I know that Abundant Life Academy has been since shut down for physical abuse.
Okay.
While I was there, when it was under the original owner, his name was Craig. Craig is one of the best people that I've ever met in my life. Genuinely cared, genuinely was there to help people. The staff members was a day and night difference. Like, we were able to interact with the girl. We were able to listen to music. We could watch movies a couple times a week. You know, like, we got to do things that Midwest didn't allow. I always say that if I was to open my own school, I would open it based off of how Abundant Life Academy was run before the ownership changed. Once there was a different guy who bought it, and he kind of ran it more like a business and kind of hired a bunch of questionable people. Before that, it was definitely there to help people, and they had the right intentions.
Okay, what do you think worked about it?
For me, the biggest thing is at Midwest Academy, it was, if you're messing up, we're just going to throw you in this cell. At Abundant Life Academy, they ran off of what was called a positive peer culture. And by that, it was, hey, we're a family. We live together. It's just one family. And if one of us is struggling, we are all struggling, and we're going to lift this person up.
Okay. So kind of like a rehab, sort of.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you could go back in a time machine and not go through these places, would you do it, and why?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I would 100% go through this all over again, because of what I went through, I'm able to be a voice to those, and I've helped so many different people. I would go through this pain tenfold over and over again if it meant that I could save somebody else.
Okay. That's exactly why I do the podcast. Let's see. Were you made to admit to anything that you didn't do when you were in the program?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about that.
They knew that I had never done anything drug related or anything of the sort. And so they very quickly made me turn to the attachment that I had to my big sister. And I was told that I had to admit that I wanted to sleep with my big sister.
Unbelievable.
And I remember them making me write home and tell my mom about it. They made me stand up in front of a group and share it. And out of everything in my life, like, that's the most disgusting I've ever felt.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. Have you talked to your family or talked to your sister? Have they seen the program? Have you talked to them about how this place affected you? Where are you with your parents and your family?
So I talk to my big sister every day. Like I said, she's my best friend. We experienced two very different parts of the program. She was only there for about a year before she graduated. She did relapse when she came home, so she came back for a couple months. But the experience, like, she doesn't, what I know, didn't really experience a lot of negativity from it. She doesn't talk about it a whole lot, and so I don't really push. She knows to an extent of what, her listening to this will be her first side of, or hearing a lot of this. My mom is very much in denial, still convinced that Ben Train is a good person, and that everything isn't true. I know that my mom watched the program. So did both my 2 of my 5 sisters I know for sure have watched it. My dad, I talked to about it a little bit. My dad is very much, be careful what you say, be careful what you talk about, some things are best to go to therapy and then move on from. He's been very apologetic about things and all of that. And, he says that he wishes he would have known and could have helped, but didn't. So he didn't. I get an occasional "I'm sorry" for my mom, but my mom doesn't believe that anything happened. But the rest of my family is very against it.
Okay. And did you witness any grooming or sexual abuse from staff member to student or student on student in either of these places?
I did not.
Okay. Did anybody run when you were there?
Did anybody what?
Try to run?
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Okay, what happened? Was there anything that sticks out?
There was one, I was in upper level. So they used to always have this standing rule that if a kid ran and you were part of the group and you caught him, you got like a steak dinner.
Same at Spring Creek, yeah.
And I remember he ran and we went and caught him. And they gave us a choice between chocolate cake or a steak dinner. And I remember we chose chocolate cake. And so one of the wives of one of the staff members or something baked us a chocolate cake. And I remember it was very delicious. I'm still friends with the kid that ran. No, I didn't tell him to run, but it was a good kid. But yeah, I remember very, very many different situations of kids running.
Okay. And do you remember your I am statement from the seminars?
I'm a pure, courageous, strong, loving young man, and my purpose is to intercept every opportunity that life throws me, break through the walls of change while high stepping into the end zone of success.
Okay. And what was your stretch?
I was a mime.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay.
They were very much, hey, you love to talk, so we're going to take away your ability to talk. And I had a couple things to mime out. They were about my sister. I mimed about how it was at home and how I wanted it to be. Like I said, that was right when my sister got sent to the program. So the only thing that was on my mind was my big sister.
Okay. And is it your belief that knowing what you know now that these remaining schools could or even should or even could be fully regulated, or is it your belief that they should all be shut down?
I think I want to say that if they're like Abundant Life Academy, how it was, and they genuinely want to help, they could be regulated and kept a close eye on. But the more and more I learn about a lot of these schools, I think one of us should run a school if we really want to help people, and be like, hey, no, I've lived on the side of abuse of this. This is not how this should be run.
Yeah.
Like I've always toyed with the idea of like one day opening up one and just hiring a bunch of kids that went to these schools who care and actually want to help and run a school the way that it should be, that genuinely wants to help kids that are struggling.
Yeah, because there needs to be something for parents that are struggling. But I'm still kind of conflicted on the sending your kid away thing. I feel like there's a lot of things that can get convoluted with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like at Abundant Life Academy, we got one phone call a week. No matter like your first week, you got a phone call. You got to write your letters. After 3 months, your parents could come and visit.
Okay.
We got to go outside for gym every day. And then if we weren't doing anything after school was done, we could go outside and play basketball. We could go outside and play volleyball with the girls. We could go to the weight room. You didn't have to ask to do a whole lot. You could, you wanted a snack. Hey, cool. have your mom send you some snacks. You can keep them in your room. You know, you pretty much wrote your own rules, and then they got approved by the staff members.
Okay. Interesting. And what do you think would have helped you instead of being sent away?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I really feel like a lot of it has to do, like, to this day, I don't feel like my mom loves me. I feel like in her eyes, I'm still a failure. And I'll never be who she wants me to be. Her big thing is whenever I'm not doing well in my life, she just cuts me out of her life until somebody tells her that I'm doing good, and then she's welcomed me back. I have an adopted brother from Haiti, who I don't have any issues with, but has definitely seemed to replace me. He got married last year, or earlier this year, he got married. And like, I don't know, like my mom posts these long statuses on everybody's birthdays and pictures of how much she loves them and all that on Facebook. And the last one I got, I was 19.
Wow.
You know, like they do family dinners once a week on Sundays that I'm always told that I'm invited to, but I've never told when that's happening or who's all going or anything like that. And then afterwards, if I say something, my mom's like, well, you have an open invitation. I'll be like, all right, well, I don't know. Or like I sell cars for a living, and I asked my mom to reach out to some of her friends and let them know that I'm in the, you know, if they're in the market, to give me a call. And she tells me that she's not comfortable with that she doesn't know what to say or anything like that. But then my brother is a roofer, and she shares his Facebook posts all the time about his company.
Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What was the hardest part about reintegrating into society? What have you struggled with the most as a result of these programs?
Relationships, whether it be friendships or partners. A lot of times I got so used to somebody being in my life for a couple months and then leaving that I don't like to get too close to people. And as soon as things start to get good or really good, I just either self-sabotage or remove myself because they're going to leave eventually anyways.
Yeah, I feel that. I struggle with that a lot too. Is there anything else you want people to know about your program, or anything that you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
So there was a point in time where after I had been there for a little over a year, and I was level 1, 0 points, and I was pulled into my family rep's office and told that because I wasn't working the program and showing no signs of it, that they had decided with my parents that I was no longer going to receive any mail.
Wow.
And so for 9 months on Tuesdays and Thursdays, every day when mail came, I would sit there and wait for letters that I knew weren't coming. I was still forced to write home every day, but knew that I wasn't going to ever get anything back.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, being in a school like that where, you know, you make friends, but you don't really get to talk to each other because you can't. So the friendships that you make are, I guess, secretive friendships, you know, I guess to say.
Yeah.
But have no outside connection. You know, like it just sucked. Like it was really hard and really made me feel unlovable. You know, like you didn't love me enough to let me stay at home, and now you don't love me enough to write me letters.
Yeah.
It's
been hard.
And I guess for parents, do your research. Don't just look on the web, but find kids that went to the school and get their opinion. You know, like if you're out of options, if you've exhausted all other options and you've got to send your kid somewhere, don't just go by what you see on the internet or what you see in a brochure. Talk to somebody that actually experienced it.
Yeah.
You know, like that was one of the things that about Abundant Life is my mom had an interview there before I was sent there, and she met with no staff members, just kids, and asked them, you know, got answers to a lot of things, and that's when they decided that that was where I was going to go because of what the kids who were currently there were saying.
Okay. Did they have any seminars at the other at Abundant Life? Any small groups?
Yeah, we had a small group every day. You know, and you weren't forced to say anything or share. You know, they encouraged it, but you weren't required to. It was it was a Christian boarding school, so there was, you know, church and all that you had to go to, but you didn't have to actively participate. You know, like you had to go to church and you had to go to praise and worship, but you didn't have to stand up and sing. You didn't have to do any of that. It was just part of the program that we did.
Okay. And let's see, I had one more question. Slipped my mind. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. If you ever want to do part 2, I'm more than open to it. Usually when we do these interviews, stuff comes up and you're like, oh, I forgot to talk about that. So if that happens, just take down notes and reach out to me. We'll do a part 2. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. And if you guys have watched so far on the video, please make sure you like the video, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hit the notification bell for all updates. And we will catch you on the next one.
Can I give my podcast a shout out real quick?
Yeah, no problem.
I know a lot of you guys are nerds. I do run an actual play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. We're called White Wing Dice. We're on every streaming platform. We do a lot of fun shenanigans. So give us a like and a follow and a listen.
Okay. Do you play Baldur's Gate at all?
I do.
I just got into that. I'm super addicted to it. I'm so addicted to it, dude.
Yeah, I just bought it like a month ago. So.
Well, what we should play together for sure.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. All right. Send me a message and we'll fucking figure that out. I'm hella down. I don't have anybody to play yet, so. Cool. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. Sorry about the the time mishap thing, but at least we got it handled. And,
no, it's okay.
I hope you have a wonderful night. And
you too.
Catch you guys on the next one. Bye.